Hello and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michelle Sagan, and I'm Head of Coaching and Counseling at the Asia School of Business. And I'm very excited to be with you here today to speak about a topic that's very close, I'm sure, to all of our hearts. But before that, allow me to share a little bit about myself. I am, like I said, Head of Coaching and Counseling, but before I actually became a coach and counselor, I was an investment banker for quite a number of years. And then I pivoted in my 30s and moved towards leadership as well as talent management. And since then, I've been a strategic human capital consultant as well as a coach and also a psychotherapist. I've worked with people from all backgrounds, with executives from junior executives right up to C-suites, as well as members of the board, and from various industries as well, from the energy industry, from finance, from transportation, oil and gas, etc. So today, let's talk about a topic that cuts across the board and does not that resonates with all of us and does not actually pick, who it's going to affect, right? Because all of us need resilience in this new normal, right? And this new normal has come with a lot of new emotions that come up in all of us, right? It's brought a lot of things. In the last 1.5 to 2 years, we've found ourselves in places that we've never found ourselves in before. And resilience is the one thing that has been there that we need to channel in order to push us forward, right? To get us through this very difficult time. So that's what I'm here to speak to you about today. So I'd like to share some slides with you, and I'd just like to kick off this topic with how you are, right? So I just want to ask you in the audience, how are you feeling, right? Are you feeling, excited that things are opening up? Are you feeling still a lot of anxiety about what's going on? Are you feeling depressed? Because so much of, our lives have been in upheaval and has changed. Or are you in a better, in a much, much better place now, right? So unfortunately, even though things are getting better, still a lot of us find that we're still languishing, right? And what do we actually mean by languishing? Well, it's a term that psychologists use to explain the situation you're in where you're not thriving, right? You're not flourishing at the top of your sweet spot, where you're happy and excited and you wake up every day completely thrilled with life. But neither are you depressed, or completely without hope, right? So you're in that middle place between thriving and suffering, and that place is called languishing. And for the last 2 years, many of us have been in this spot called languishing, because we wake up in the morning, and sometimes we feel like, we've lost our oomph, right? We've lost that passion for life, right? We cannot go out, we don't see a family. I have not seen my parents for almost 2 years now, right? A year and a half, right? And it's not a nice place to be. So when you're languishing, you just don't have that zest for life anymore, that passion. Even work feels a little bit, just dreary and mundane, and you can't go out with your friends. All the holidays you had planned, etc., you don't get to do them anymore. So what is this state we're in, right? It's this languishing state. How does it come about? Well, a lot of it comes about when you find yourself facing unprecedented change, as well as what we call anticipatory grief, right? And this state creates a lot of anxiety in us. What is anticipatory grief? Anticipatory grief happens when you're grieving all the things in your life that did not happen or you think may not happen, right? And these things could be maybe, like I said, going on that holiday you wanted to go on, getting that promotion that you wanted to so badly wanted, but which did not happen because your organization during the pandemic had to cut costs and could not do that. It could also be, for example, sorry, let me just move the slides forward. Yeah. There we go. It could also be the situation whereby, you had planned a wedding, you had to cancel it, right? So we're grieving in anticipation of all the things that could not happen, right? And a lot of times, when you are in this grieving stage, it can also create a lot of anxiety. And this is why, like I said earlier, we've had to channel resilience, right? So this resilience is the one thing that's going to pull us through these difficult times, right? And if you have a look at that picture over there, what you can see is an image of a man looking at a snake, okay? And what's happening here is that we, as human beings, we're biologically created to react when we see danger, right? So when we fear something, when we see something that scares us, for example, this pandemic had scared us, right? COVID had scared us. We were so terrified of catching it. We were scared of that our loved ones would get it. So what happens is it triggers something in us biologically called flight or freeze, right? So, fight, right? So you have your flight where you run away. So if you see a snake, you either run away, you fight it, you take a broom or a stick and hit it, or you freeze, right? So what has been happening to us these last 2 years is either we've been fighting it, so we've been angry at the world, we've been saying it's so unfair, why does this happen to us? Or we've been running away, right? So we've been detaching ourselves. We go into depression. We get really, sad and upset. And a lot of us feel like the victim, or we just freeze, right? And that's that languishing space where we just don't know what to do with ourselves anymore, right? So this is why resilience is so important. And a lot of times when you think about resilience, right, when you ask someone what is resilience, they will tend to say to you, resilience is pushing forward, just to keep pushing forward despite all of life's challenges, right? So that is what normally people would respond when you ask them, what is resilience? Today, I would like to talk to you about a different way of looking at resilience. And I would like to talk to you about resilience in terms of managing our energy, right? Managing your energy on a day-to-day basis. Okay, so unfortunately, like I said, when we're in this languishing space where we're suffering from anxiety, when we're grieving for all the things that we've lost, right? We don't have that energy anymore, right? We don't have that oomph to get up in the morning really excited. So what we need to do is rebuild that energy. The thing with time, is that time is finite, right? So how this came about, this talk about energy, is that researchers were looking at how to improve performance in organizations amongst the employees. And what they realized was that it wasn't just a matter of better time management. It was because, time is finite, right? There's only so many hours in a day. We all have 24 hours in a day. None of us get 1 minute more. So if time is finite, what can you play around with instead? Well, the one thing you can play around with is your energy, right? So one person, for example, has an hour, and how much work they deliver or how effective or efficient they are in that 1 hour can depend a lot on their energy, their physical energy, the mental energy that they're bringing to the work, the emotional energy. Imagine if you're feeling depressed that day or really, really anxious about something in your personal life, or just about maybe you're going to have a difficult conversation later on and your mind has drifted away. How much energy do you bring to the table during that 1 hour? Far less than someone who's focused, right? So managing your energy could be one way to really, really get you through the difficult times. Okay, and we're going to look at managing energy through several different areas. Okay, so they did a case study. Okay, there was a pilot energy management program that was launched in Wachovia Bank across 12 of the regional banks, right, and 106 of the employees, okay? And this was in New Jersey, right? And what they wanted to measure was, like we said, time is finite, but how about if they invested in their employees' energy, right? If they invested in your employees' energy levels, right? So what they did was they actually tested their employees on 4 different areas: your physical energy, your emotional energy, your mental energy, and your spiritual energy. And what they realized was that the employees which perform better, right? So as you can see the tables over there, there's those who participated in the energy program, who learned about how to manage these 4 areas of energy, and then there were the ones in the control group. What they discovered was that the participants who knew how to manage their energy were far more successful than those who were in the control group, right? Who didn't know how to manage their energy. And it wasn't that they sent them on a course to learn about increasing loan revenue or deposit revenues that they got better at increasing these numbers. It was just about how they managed their own internal energy, right? So today we're going to talk about these 4 energy levels, areas of energy, okay? So let's begin with the first one, physical energy, okay? Physical energy is, of course, how you are physically, right? A lot of times, unfortunately, right, when we're in that state of languishing, we just feel tired all the time, and I would like to say that we live in a burnout generation a lot of times as well, right? In a generation which completely is consumed by wanting to be more and more successful, right? All of us want to be more and more successful, and we work to the point of burnout. We forget to stop. We forget to take rest. We applaud the people who we think are resilient by pushing harder and harder and harder. But have you noticed that a lot of times the people who are most successful are actually the most physically unwell? They're the ones who are getting heart attacks, who have high blood pressure, who have diabetes, who might even have mental health issues, right? Because they're stressed and worn out. So looking after your physical energy is so important, right? And that's your exercise, getting enough exercise in a week, at least exercising 4 times a week and for 30 minutes a day. That is at least the minimum, right? Just to get your body moving. You'll find that you cannot be depressed when you're actually moving about and running, because you distracted yourself from a lot of things just by moving. Your diet is important. How many of us, right, can claim to have not put on any weight in the last 1.5 years when we've been working from home, right? During all those times when we were sitting in front of the television, probably, watching Netflix or and eating junk food, right? But however, it does not help. All that sugar, all that salt does not help with your mood. Actually, it can cause a lot of issues. So your diet, eating healthily, right, getting right exercise, and getting enough sleep is so important. Like I said, we work in a burnout generation, right? And I ask each and every one of you, how much sleep do you get? Is it enough? Do you sleep 7 to 8 hours every night? Do you work till 2 a.m. in the morning and then get up again at 7 and have a quick shower and start all over the day all over again? Do you give yourself enough time to rest? How can you push forward? How can you be resilient if you do not take care of your body, if you do not take care of your physical being, right? So that's the basis, right? You need to make sure that you manage your physical energy. I want to encourage you as much as possible to really think about that. Health, as they say, is wealth, and we really mean it. Because if you lose your health, then how are you going to push forward, right? Without your health, okay? The next thing we're going to look at is mental energy, right? And there's 2 parts to it, right? And what this Harvard Business Review article talks about is resilience in terms of recharging. So not just pushing forward, like we said. Sometimes what you need to do in order to run the marathon is to take a small break in the middle and just pause and rest and recharge. Drink some water before you continue again, right? So if we can think about our day and about our lives, right, as marathons rather than sprints, then we'll be able to actually take the time to recharge when we're exhausted. Because it's a long, long way ahead for us, right? And if we don't have that break, And then we're going to be, we're going to suffer from exhaustion, right? And it's not just physical, it's mental too. So what we need to do is build these internal and external recovery periods to help us to recharge. If there's anything that you can take away from today, I'd like you to take this away. Homeostasis, this word. What it means is that we all need this cycle of working really hard, stopping, recovering, and then working again, right? It allows our brain to rest because our brain works on what we call an ultradian rhythm. So we work on 90 to 120 minute cycles. So if you're doing something like a task and you don't take a break after 90 to 100 minutes, you'll just find yourself not able to come up with solutions as quickly as before. You won't find yourself as effective. And that's because your brain is at the point of exhaustion. So just like you need to recharge your physical body, you need to recharge mentally as well, right? Mindfulness is really good at this as well. Just being mindful and stopping that racing mind of yours that is worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow, what happened yesterday, and just being and living in the moment, okay? That's really important. The next thing, of course, when we think about mental energy is agility, okay? It's being able to pivot from a very fixed mindset to a growth mindset. It's learning that we do not have to be victims in our own lives. We can change the stories in our heads that we're telling ourselves. So I coach so many people on this all the time, right? The people who come to me and say, oh, life is so unfair. I didn't get that promotion. I didn't get that job. My partner's treating me really badly. My children don't appreciate me, right? Why, right? And of course, there are many reasons why. But a lot of times, if you remain in this space, you cannot grow. You have to think of life, like I said, as a marathon, right? And of these times when you face challenges as times for you to learn. Think about a child, a baby who's learning to walk, right? A toddler. What happens? They walk, they fall, they stumble, and then they get up again. And we need to remember to do that. When life gets difficult, we need to start to change the way we look at it. Instead of complaining, and instead of saying, oh God, why is this happening to me? We need to say, how can I grow through this experience? What do I need to learn? What can I take away from this? Right? And that's how we empower ourselves and we get ourselves to the next level so that we can push forward. Your mental state, the voices you listen to in your head are so critical. So I was coaching a gentleman who was actually running his own company in the during this last pandemic, and his company wasn't doing well, and he had to close some of his pause his factories, put them on hold, and he was in a very, very depressed state, right, when he came to me. And he said, Michelle, what am I going to do? My world has turned upside down. And then we said, we talked about how what he was going through. And I said, I can't tell you his name, but I just said, sir, what do you think is one good thing you can take away from this? It doesn't have to be a lot, right? We just start from the small things. Just say one good thing, because you've been telling me about all the bad things that have happened, but is there one good thing that you can take away? He paused for a very long time, and then he said, well, for the first time, I'm able to spend time with my children because I'm working from home, and I'm there with them. I've missed out so much of their life. And I said, all right, great, right? So we talk about how he can actually now build a relationship with his family that he did not have before. What else, Then we said, what else? And he said, well, now I have time to, I guess, exercise again. I used to love running. I stopped because I was so busy. I guess I could start running again, And it was just small things like this. And then we built a plan up for him on how he could change his lifestyle just by changing the way he thought about the challenges ahead of him. And then several months later, right, he was fitter than ever. He lost 5 kilos. He helps his children with their homework. He gives them a hug and a kiss every night. He used to miss their bedtimes all the time. And he was so much happier. And yes, he still had to find ways to forge forward with his business. He, instead of saying, previously, he was creating, it was a chemical factory, right? He was creating something for the oil and gas. But when, he started to become agile and adapt, he created cleaning products instead, right? So he used that opportunity to pivot and to find a way forward. And that's the difference between staying in this fixed mindset and moving towards a growth mindset, okay? The next one, of course, is emotional energy, so important. Having this emotional maturity that we bring to the table, moving away from fight and flight, actually taking the time to actually look at what we're feeling, to pause before we react, right? Emotional maturity comes with being able to say to yourself, and to give your own pep talks to yourself, I can do this, right? I can do this. To learn that you are the superhero in your own life and that falling forward is the only option, right? That's resilience and emotional maturity, within emotional maturity, right? And bouncing back quickly, right? That's so key, okay? Then we will look at relationships. Building relationships are really, really, really important as well, right? Babies, they need hugs, they need to be held, they need to be touched, right? And so do we. We need to build relationships because if we don't, then the chances of us dying from heart disease, catching colds, all increase. It's psychosomatic, right? Loneliness kills just as much as smoking cigarettes do, okay? And compassion, bringing compassion to work, bringing compassion to the people, making sure that, you have that ability to find empathy. I hope that if there's one thing that COVID teaches us, it's that. And last of all, spiritual energy, finding that purpose every day, connecting your work to something bigger, waking up in the morning and saying, I'm not laying bricks. What I'm doing is I'm building a hospital, right? And that's, if we change our mindset like that, it makes a huge difference. So bringing gratitude into our lives, just being thankful for what we have, and looking at how we can support the greater good of humanity is so, so important. So I just want to end with my favorite quote, and this is from Masahide, who says, my barn having burned down, I can now see the moon, right? If you have a challenge, like for example, what we've been through in the pandemic, we could never have grown as much as we can now that our barn has burned down. So focus on the moon. And thank you for that, and I'd like to open the floor to questions now. Any questions? Okay. Bagaimana mengatasi kekecewaan apabila perkara yang dirancang tidak menjadi untuk mengelak putus asa? Okay. It's so easy for us to want to give up, right? A lot of times, when things don't go our way, especially when we put in all the effort and the work into it, it's so easy to give up. But that's why, right, we need to say to ourselves, why am I doing this? Am I doing this just for the reward? Or am I doing this because I love it, because I have passion for it, right? Remember I talked about purpose and having that purpose in your life? So many of us, we don't find purpose in our lives. We wake up in the morning, we go to work, we come home, we feel dead, we feel jaded, we ask ourselves, why am I doing this? Why am I even doing this? I'm like a rat in a wheel, a hamster in a wheel. I just run every day. But if we can connect our work with our passion, with a purpose for our life, like I said, for the bricklayer, instead of thinking of yourself as laying a brick, think of yourself as building a hospital. Why are you doing this? Think of yourself as building a school. Create purpose in your life so that even when something doesn't happen, you don't have to give up. You can still say to yourself, I am bigger than any challenge in front of me. I'm bigger than this because I have purpose in my life, right? Any other questions? I hope that helps. Any other questions? How to manage well our emotions when facing financial distress. Oh, I really hope this week will help with a lot of the financial advice to you. But really, the one thing I've found is when you're facing financial challenges in your life, of course it will bring you down, right? Of course, when you wait. How humans work is we have the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If we don't meet at least our basic needs, then we cannot meet our other needs. For example, our sense of belonging, our sense of finding out who we are, our purpose, etc. Right? Because we need to be able to have a roof over our heads and to feed ourselves and our families. However, when you do want to manage your emotion around this, I would say to you, the one thing you can do is, first of all, find gratitude in your life, right? Find gratitude. The minute you find gratitude, you can manage that emotions and you can tell yourself, I'll live another day to make it through this. I'll make it through this, and because I have so many other things in my life that work now. So when we took a group of people off last time, right? A group of CEOs off. And we asked them to just, focus on building their energies. And a lot of them couldn't focus in the class because they were so worried about the decisions they had to make back in their company, right? With the board, the companies weren't doing well, etc. So they could not stop and just relax. So we made them do an exercise. Spend 5 minutes just talking about all the things in your life that you're grateful for. It was difficult, but in the end, they were all crying. They said, I'm grateful that I have a family that loves me. I'm grateful that I have 2 eyes to see. I'm grateful that my wife is still here with me, even though I have had no time to spend with her. I'm grateful that I'm alive. I'm thankful to God for it. And when you put yourself in that bigger picture of gratitude, it's hard to let just one aspect of your life bring you down. So that's one way to manage your emotions around financial distress. Anything else? If one of my team members is facing family issues, which is due to the pandemic, may I know how I can help him? Due to the issue that his family is having, he can't concentrate in his work, affected his performance. Yeah, so remember when I showed you that slide about bringing compassion to work? Well, the one thing that this pandemic has showed us is that we, we are human beings, every single one of us, right? And what that means is that organizations cannot treat you like a commodity anymore, right? There is no micromanaging when you're working from home. There's no one to sit over your shoulder and check what you're doing and tell you what to do. So what is the most important currency that an organization needs to have when they need to make sure that your employees perform? What would it be, do you think? That currency is trust. And how do you build trust? Because if they're working from home, how do you trust them enough to do the work? Because you're not looking over their shoulder every minute of the day. How do you get them to perform at home? Well, building trust. Organizations need to treat their people as human beings. They need to have compassion. They need to have empathy. They need to understand that your employees are not just there to work. They cannot just be transactional. They need to look at their employees as the whole person. And if a personal issue is if they're facing personal issues at home, then obviously they're not going to bring their whole selves to the table. So compassion and empathy is really, really key. And I would encourage you, if you have a teammate who is not doing well, bring empathy and compassion to the table with them. If you're a manager, talk to the person, really understand the issue, and find out ways to support them. If you're a teammate, take the time to just sit with them, to put work aside for a while, and just commiserate, right? Because sometimes just being there for the other person is good enough. If not, maybe even suggest, okay, can I take a little bit of the burden off your plate at work? Can you delegate some tasks to me? Can we do this together? Can we share some of this burden, right? So that's taking that extra step to help them going forward, okay? Anything else, or are we good? Okay. So thank you very much, everyone. I hope that was useful to you, and I look forward to speaking to you again in future, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.